Hey, Illinois fans, this is Doug Bouchon, a publisher of Orange and Blue News. This is the Orange and Blue News podcast. A lot to talk about. And football teams headed to the Citrus Bowl in Orlando, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. Great season for them, and great time to bring on Reilly O'Toole, former quarterback, and just talk about the season and recap it a little bit and all of those exciting games. And really, Reilly, a historic season for Illinois when you look at how it unfolded with some of the close wins and then the first 9-3 record in quite some time. And just looking back at it, what's your kind of biggest takeaway, you think, just from the season overall?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on, Doug. Always great to be back. But really, just an exciting season from start to finish. Obviously, got off to a hot start. The big win against Kansas, and I think in the grand scheme of things, it reminded me a lot of the 2022 season. Obviously, not the amazing defense that we had back then, but one thing that was different is we finished strong, which was great to see. After that Oregon game and in the Minnesota game, certainly the thoughts crept back in of, okay, here we go. Maybe we'll hit that lull again and kind of limp into a bowl game. But Brett got the team, back on track, and run game got going, and our big time players are making some big time plays down the stretch. So really fun season. And this is kind of what we've been dreaming about as Illinois fans for quite some time, to get back to 8+ wins consistently. And like you said, 9 wins this year, which I thought was our very high ceiling before the season. So if you told me back in August that we'd have 9 wins, I would have been over the moon.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I think all the preseason prognosticators, all the preseason magazines thought that maybe they were a borderline bowl team, and that says a lot about the coaching staff, I think, and not just Brett Bielema, but the coordinators and some of those off-season coaching hires that they hired. Winning close games was a big part of this. I mean, the season really could have went either way if some of those games had fallen the other direction. Is there a formula to that? Is there to closing games like Nebraska, and then Purdue was a big surprise with the Boilermakers coming back in
Right.
the second half and making a game of it and going to overtime, and then of course the Rutgers game and
Right.
and the Pat game, so,
Right.
in the last second touchdown. Is there something to that, a formula to it, to closing out those close games?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, I think since Bielema has been here, I think that's been, uh, in my opinion, kind of one of the nice things is like the consistency and competitiveness. Is we have seen so many close games when there were, even when I was playing, a lot of games are you weren't even in it. Obviously we've been on the wrong end of some of those close games, but I think this year, in particular, you got an experienced quarterback that's played a lot of football, and you got playmakers like Pat Bryant, Jakari Franklin, going out there and making plays when you need them. And I think uh, having the staff kind of have some continuity in the team. I think there's just a lot of trust, it seems, from watching a game, that Bielema has and Lunny has in Luke, and vice versa, to get the job done. So it doesn't really seem like they've had a flinch, and I think that's a testament to Luke. I think if you have a quarterback like Luke, you always have a chance, and it seems like whenever we had the ball late in the game, you always thought that they were about to do something, and it's kind of nice to see him kind of let loose. And when you get in those moments, it's do or die, so you can kind of pull the trigger a little bit more freely than you might in the middle of the game, because it's do or die territory. So it's been a fun season. Luke's been lights out, and it's been fun to see guys step up in some big time moments.
You brought his name up, and of course, this was kind of the season where Luke Allmeyer arrived. And I wanted to ask you about that kind of partnership connection that he found with Pat Bryant, and not and throw in Barry Lenny Jr. into that. Really, that trio just kind of seemed to connect this year. I think Barry Lenny came into his own as a play caller, really opened up the offense, and they did some things that were a little bit surprising with a Brett Bielema team, but that kind of partnership between the offensive coordinator Luke Altmaier and the wide receiver core, and specifically Pat Bryant, what'd you see from that? And talk about that as a quarterback when you have a connection with a receiver like that. How special is that when you know you can throw the ball up and he's going to be there?
Yeah, I mean it's big time. I think uh, at the root of it all, I think it's just trust. It's Luke's second year in Lunny's system. Lunny knows, and Luke and Pat Bryant came out and said it after I think the Minnesota game. Like they are more comfortable in up tempo and kind of no huddle. And I don't think you say something like that if you don't have a good relationship with your coordinators and your head coach. So I thought that was pretty telling. And yeah, I mean, I think to have that trust, to be able to throw up that 50-50 ball and with a guy like Pat Bryant, it's really 70-30, maybe even 80-20 when you have a guy like that out on the outside making plays. And it just makes a world of a difference. Getting Zachary Franklin, I think he probably didn't have the stats that he would have liked, coming to Illinois and going back into Lunny's offense. But I think Pat and Zachary helped each other out immensely, because if you have two weapons on both sides, it's tough to really zone in on one of them. And, it opened up other guys as well. Dixon in the slot made some big plays throughout the year, and Hank Beatty had some big time catches, and you get the pass game going, inevitably the run game will pop every once in a while. So at the end of the day, I think there's just a trust that's being built, and it was really fun to see, and hopefully continue to build on that, and looking forward to an exciting bowl game in 2025 season.
When things aren't going well offensively, the low hanging fruit is kind of offensive play calling, and
Right.
Barry Lenny has taken some of that on social media. But I thought he had really a great season as the offensive coordinator, and hopefully they can hold on to him. I think he is a head coach kind of material. Just his knowledge of the game and his personality, his temperament. It just seems to have all of what it takes to be a college football head coach. And what were your thoughts on him this year as a coordinator? Why did he kind of take that jump this year? Was it all about the quarterback, or do you think just on his own he kind of came into his own as a play caller?
Yeah, I think a lot of it really, not obviously Luke deserves a ton of credit, but just having that trust, and even making a play call and having that trust in Luke to potentially get out of a bad play call if the defense shifts or something. So I think Barry's done just a really good job of being extremely balanced, extremely creative. But like you said, the coordinators are always the first scapegoats when things don't go according to plan. But that's why football is such a great sport. It takes all 11 guys to do their job. If one guy messes up, it could really throw a wrench in the entire play. So, but then also in that same breath, offensive coordinators, you want to run plays, and you're going to run plays throughout the game that set up plays later in the game. So, maybe in the first half, you're going to do some play action pass or some runs to set up a play to take a shot that you want to see how the defense responds. So I think Barry Lonnie's been awesome this year. I really hope that they are aggressive in extending him and offering him what he deserves, and that he can stay around. So while success is exciting, and that's all that we have hoped for as Illinois fans, obviously with success comes coaches and players getting maybe some larger opportunities elsewhere, and it's really important to keep some continuity going forward.
Completely off topic, but do you wish you had the coach to player communication system in your helmet like they have now?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, I know, I remember vividly my freshman year. It was a huge adjustment for me, because in high school I was running to the sideline every single play and getting the play from my coach. So like the signals and all that stuff was a huge adjustment. Obviously, you get it down pretty easily, but would have been just a heck of a lot easier if you can just get someone telling you to play in your ear.
No doubt. They're still holding up these big signs on the sideline. I have no idea what they say, but they have like
Yeah.
three of them, and I think one of them's got the live play on it, and the other two don't. And but kind of a backup system, I think, to the headset. But
Yeah. Well, I always just assumed that the signs were to block the press box from people stealing the signs. And then I would assume the reason they have those is there's probably a few guys signaling the formation, um, and perhaps the play. Like if you're doing a no huddle, obviously Luke can't yell the play to all four receivers or whatever. So, but yeah, I think that's been a nice change, and I'd be eager to talk to Luke or just some quarterbacks that have played and pick their brains on kind of how that transition has been.
the other coordinator, I saw a change in him this year too, in Aaron Henry, more maturity. I think that his first year, he really came across as a position coach, who was thrown into the coordinator's role.
Right.
And this year, he kind of came into his own. You saw a more confident coach. Now, the defense, I think, still had some hiccups. Maybe not quite as much talent through the portal as they had hoped, especially up front on the defensive line. But what you see from Coach Henry this year, and was it something to build off of for future years on the defensive side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going in the year, everyone thought was that the offense would be in a really good spot and the defense would really struggle. And, I think the defense early on in the season really carried the team with turnovers. Obviously, that helped. But yeah, I think just comes with experience. And what I appreciate about Coach Henry is, in the games where they really did struggle, he's the first to really fall on the sword and take responsibility for I know Purdue probably trying to do a little too much with calls and getting away from what they had done so well. And then obviously every year there's going to be injuries and kind of in the back half of the season, we had some injuries in the back end. And so those are tough to deal with. And when we got a young team and a lot of folks that haven't played a ton of football. So he's been great. I think the coaching staff is really in a great spot. And, the sad part is you just know as we continue to have success, these guys are going to be some hot ticket items to go elsewhere. So, but that's a good problem to have because that means we're winning games.
Aaron Henry, he really is a high character guy. I mean, he's one of those, and we in the media we really appreciate that. When you ask him a question, he actually he goes into detail for you and really answers it honestly. He takes
Sure.
responsibility when things don't go well, like you mentioned. The one thing about it is when he has a press conference, you're only going to get about 5 questions. So if you have because
Yeah.
he
Right.
these long answers, detailed
Yeah.
answers, they're great. They're great for the quotes and for the stories. But if you got a question, you gotta make sure you get it in.
Sure.
But great guy. I love the guy. He's such a high character guy, and I think the players appreciate that, and the young kids that he's recruiting out of the trail really appreciate that too. They see it, and a couple of guys really stood out too. Xavier Scott was an All Big Ten first team cornerback, I guess, but he plays the nickel. He's a
Hmm.
versatile guy. What'd you see from him? And then Gabe Akis, PFF for some reason his PFF score, and take it for what it's worth, it's PFF, but it was a little bit lower than what you would expected. But he was a very impactful guy coming off the edge.
Yeah. I think Xavier Scott obviously shown some flashes in the past, but just really took a huge step. And, that KU game, he essentially won the game for us. Just a really instinctive player. Clearly trusts his instincts as well. And I just think he's kind of the heart and soul of the defense. And, I think you really saw it when he was out in a couple of games to, maybe that's just a little sense of trust in the back end, keep saying that word, but that really is important. And then just his leadership. I think he's been really, really a bright spot to the season. And then Gabe, you had a great true freshman year and maybe didn't reach expectations his sophomore year. And I think he really got back on track this year to kind of really be a game wrecker and really have some big time games. And he's been great. So hopefully both those guys are back next year and can build off this and really raise their draft stock pretty significantly, which hope they do, and I think that they can do.
It's going to take some NIL money. I think there's a chance that they come back and hopefully they play in the bowl game.
Right.
Against South Carolina, two key players on the defensive side. Um, Talking about that, this time of year, a lot of different things converge with NIL and the transfer portal. And we asked Josh Whitman about revenue sharing too the last time we talked to him, and that kicks in the new year. And what do you make of all these changes in college football? I know Brett Bielema at his press conference a few days ago said this is the best time that he can remember in college football, and it does seem to be that interest has peaked, and this college football playoff is going to be probably the biggest moneymaker that the sport has ever seen. It's going to be right up there with the NCAA basketball tournament. Just an exciting thing with 12 teams in the college football playoff. So, what do you make of all of the transformational changes in the game from NIL to revenue sharing and the portal and the 12-team playoff?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I feel like um, multiple times a week I'm getting questions from folks asking what my opinion on the NIL space, and I think it's great, and um, I really do think they're doing a pretty good job kind of adapting on the fly. Now they're bringing in revenue sharing. They see kind of the lopsided, um, you know, bags of money that some of these programs are throwing at some players, and I just really think it's a way to even out um, the competition. But then also like this year in particular, I think just the there's not really, obviously Oregon's undefeated, but it doesn't really seem like there's a Georgia or Alabama that we've seen the past like 5 years that really kind of seems head and shoulders over everyone else. Um, I think you know it's probably the most level top 8 teams that we've seen um, really in a really long time, probably dating before the playoffs were a thing. So I think that's exciting. I think, frankly, that's probably one of the better things about the NIL space because it allows programs to really prioritize athletes that they want, and they can go out and spend a little bit more for someone that they really believe that can make a difference, and those athletes are really taking that opportunity and taking the money, which I don't blame them for the right opportunity. So
There's
um,
there's there's proof of that. I mean, when the conference expanded, everyone was writing stories about how Illinois and Indiana can't compete.
right,
You'll never see either one of those two teams in the college football playoff. They got rid of the two divisions in the Big Ten. Now you're playing a
right,
tougher schedule. You can't win the Big Ten West and go to the Big Ten championship game. You can throw that right out the window. Indiana is in the college football playoff. Who saw
yeah,
that coming?
crazy,
And
yeah,
it was all about transfers from the coach's previous school and about the NIL piece at
yeah,
Indiana. So
right,
and Illinois is right on the cusp of the college football playoff. They're probably in a discussion if they beat Minnesota,
right,
and they're playing in one of the top bowl games that's not part of the playoffs. So,
right,
like you said, I mean, it really changes um, competition, opens it up for everybody, and kind of levels the playing field a little bit. What's it do for Illinois? And what kind of buzz are you hearing among your Illinois friends as far as excitement about the program and potential donors?
yeah. I think it's great for universities like Illinois that especially a season like this, like top 5 in the Big Ten, I guess maybe top 4, 4 or 5, kind of really on the cusp of um, reaching that top tier, which we've been hoping for a long time, um, and I get the programs with the biggest NIL are the programs that have won pretty consistently for the most part, or the desperate fan bases. So in regards to kind of my circle, guys I've played with, everyone's really excited, really fired up. It's just a fun time. It's just fun to uh, see a couple numbers next to Illinois when you're watching them on TV. Having them ranked, playing on CBS. Um, Playing in primetime games against the big time brands, and having those throwback jerseys, whether you liked them or not, but playing against Michigan on probably one of the more exciting games in Memorial Stadium of all time. So I feel like Illinois football is in a really good spot, and I can certainly feel the momentum and the fan base really rallying around. We've just been a hungry fan base for a really long time. We haven't seen consistency like this since early 2000s. So it's been hopefully keep this thing rolling, and the fan base can continue to rally behind them, because I really think when you see it in basketball, I think we've got the best fan base in the country, and you just got to give them something to root for and be excited about, and have that consistency.
The key always lies with the head coach and making the right hire, putting the guy in place. And it seems like Brett Bielema he's taken a step in his career too, and his life and his outlook. I don't think he's the same guy that abruptly left Wisconsin and went to Arkansas to take an SEC job. He does seem like he wants to be here, and they have an opportunity to build around that. And as you know, every time Illinois has had a great season in the past, whether it's going all the way back to 80, 84, 85, or 2007, the following year, things kind of fell apart on them. It seems like there's an opportunity with Bielema for some continuation of the success. I mean, had an eight win season in 22, a little bit of a hiccup last year, and then back to 9 wins this year. Do you see what I see? Do you see a chance, to have some consistency and have a winner on a yearly basis?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's why I'm just really fired up. I think Illinois is just really gonna. I really truly believe that they're gonna come to the table and come through with the NIL piece, and fight to keep Gabe and Xavier and Luke, because those are really the core pieces, and those are the guys you build around. And having those guys commit to coming back will only help top end receivers, top end O linemen, either top end D linemen that want to play alongside Gabe, or DBs that want to play alongside Xavier Scott to come here. And I think we're a few pieces away from really having another special season. Schedule came out, looks, if you had to choose a schedule, I would say it's more on the favorable side. Obviously you never know year to year, but on paper, I think there's just a really big opportunity to match this season, and maybe even do a little bit better. So I think they're going to capitalize on this opportunity, having probably one of the better quarterbacks in recent memory at Illinois. Really just one of the best situations from a staff standpoint, from a roster standpoint. Just in a great spot. So I think we're excited for the future, and well equipped.
Well, if nothing else, Josh Whitman is a realist, and he's completely embraced the reality that he's facing. I mean, some people have the approach that they try to fight it, they try to fight the changes, and try to win the old school way.
Right.
You don't see that with Whitman. I think you get the feeling that he would have liked to have stayed. Some of the things stayed the old way, with transfers and all that, but he's really completely embraced all of the changes in college football, and has put in Illinois in a position to be competitive. Have you gotten to know him at all? And what's your thoughts on his approach, not just to football, but to the athletic program overall?
Yeah, just don't know him very well. Say hi to him briefly. Whenever I see him, it's typically at an event, and he's shaking hundreds of hands. So, but yeah, I mean, I think all the success that Illinois athletics across the board has had really comes back to him, whether it's bringing in Underwood, obviously Bielema, women's basketball. My wife being former soccer player, she's really fired up about the new women's soccer coach that they just brought on. Softball has had some great seasons. Women's volleyball is always competitive, and obviously by far the toughest conference in the country in women's volleyball. So the athletics at Illinois, I think, are across the board. Of course, men's golf, but that was before Whitman was here, so I can't necessarily give him a ton of credit for that. But Illinois sports is in a better spot than, I haven't been a fan for my entire life, but, than when I can remember. And, having someone pulling the trigger like Josh Whitman, he deserves all the credit and then some to creating this athletic program that we have.
The lifeblood of any program is recruiting. And then my theory is that the recruiting kind of trails a successful season by a full recruiting cycle. So the class that they just signed this month reflects a little bit of inconsistency. A good season, 2 years ago, and a good head football coach and good program. It doesn't reflect 9-3 in 2024. So when you were a recruit, and I know what your answer is going to be, but how much weight did you put on finding a program where you could win? I mean, the NIL money is great, and all that,
Right.
but kids are still competitive athletes, and they still want to go win. And how much of an impact do you think having that a 9-win season can have on next year's recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a world of difference. You could absolutely love a coach, but they've just been struggling, and you can potentially see the writing on the wall if for the next season or two that it doesn't go well, that coach might not be there, and that's not a
Like
situation
Purdue,
that.
for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. Like I'm sure. But like when I was committing to Illinois, like Zook just brought in pretty much a whole new staff, and they led the Big Ten in rushing with Mikel LaShore and had that great season. Obviously, dropped a few games, but when they went to the Texas Bowl, so I felt like I was on the front end of what could really be something special. Obviously, didn't turn out that way, but I had faith in that staff and the fact that they were, in my mind, kind of getting back on track and for what I thought was going to be consistent winning for the next 4 to 5 years. It's exactly why I hopped on the train. So I think it makes the world of a difference, and I think, and just listening like Pat Ebleton or Bielema or Jeremy Werner, like that this 2026 class seems to really be, or we've had some good commits already, but really have some high hopes. So as you've touched on many times, I think the 2026 class could be really a strong class just based off this current season we're finishing up.
And they're not done this year. I think the transfer class is going to be pretty good. They're in
Yeah,
on some yes, they're in on some good kids and some top tier transfers. I think last year they found some diamonds in the rough. And of course, they found a really good one in Zachary Franklin, but they got
right.
a guy like Melvin Priestley, that no one was talking about from Grambling State. He turned out to be a good player. I think now that they're in on some guys who are considering some of the blue bloods in college football, and they're getting them on campus. So should be a good group of transfers.
Yeah, and I think they built a really good story. Melvin Priestley, starter. Dennis Briggs played a ton of plays. Uh, Zachary Franklin, obviously a great pickup. Like guys that have come in and transferred in. Torrey Cox, like who would have thought he was going to start and play as significant role as he did throughout the whole season? I definitely did not. But having guys come in and have like big time success is also extremely important, and tack that on to winning 9 games. I think they just have a really good story to tell. There's a really big opportunity for certain positions to really come in and play. JC Davis, just got invited to the Senior Bowl. So just a great story to tell to potential transfers that might have a year or two that, kind of want to catapult themselves and boost their draft stock.
Well, you had a 9-3 season. What are you going to do now? You're going to Disney World. So
Right.
big bowl game for them. Should be a lot of fun. I know there's a lot of Illinois fans in Florida and a really good alumni association. Bowl games are always a great time
Right.
and a lot of fun. But as far as the matchup goes, a lot of people were expecting Alabama. Some were saying Ole Miss. They ended up with one of the hottest teams, not just in the SEC, but in the country with South Carolina, 6 straight wins, a dynamic dual threat quarterback, uh, an edge rusher who we don't know if he's going to play or not or opt out, but one of the top pass rushers and an All-American and award winner. What do you make of that? What do you make of that matchup? And do you like that matchup for Illinois?
It's gonna be a tough matchup. They're probably gonna out athlete us probably across the board. But that while the quarterback is special and a really good athlete, he also is a freshman. Um, so it'll be a big time test. But that's the really great thing about these bowl games is you get to play the SEC schools or whatever bowl game you're in, a different big time program when you're playing in a bowl of this caliber. So it'd be a great test. Obviously, some asterisks there, probably on both sides with some folks sitting out. I would imagine, and I frankly don't love the matchup. It doesn't seem like we've done great against like extremely mobile quarterbacks, but we also have pretty much a month or 3 weeks to get prepared and dial up some creative defenses and some looks to hopefully make it difficult on them.
They did pretty well against Kansas's quarterback. I think he was kind of slumping at that time though to start the season. But
Yeah, yeah,
historically, you're right. Dual threat quarterbacks have given him quite a bit of trouble.
yeah, yeah. So it'll be interesting and it'll just be fun. It's really kind of a celebration of a fun season and great for the fans. My wife and I are hopefully getting down there, and it'll just be a fun time to celebrate a great season and hopefully can go out with a win. It's nice to finish the season with a win and have a good taste in your mouth. If you lose that last game, it's kind of you got a little sour taste in your mouth till the next season rolls around. So really excited. What a fun time to get down to Florida. And anytime you're going somewhere warm for a bowl game, I think you had a pretty solid season.
There's some mystique to the SEC, and maybe people are a little more afraid of playing at one of those SEC teams than they should be. It's kind of the Big Ten physicality against SEC speed, but we did see what happens when Illinois plays a team that's got great team speed up and
Yeah,
down the roster. And when they went out to Oregon, but Oregon's offense is special. I mean, it's one of the best offenses that I've seen in college football. But as I said, they shouldn't be afraid of playing an SEC team. I
right.
mean, they're a football team, so like everybody else. But um, I would have rather had Ole Miss because you have the
Yeah,
the storyline, the great storyline with Luke coming from Ole Miss and the
right.
two coaches. But should be a fun game. And um, I don't know if you've priced Disney tickets, but holy cow! Oh, I don't know what happened to.
Yeah,
I'm taking my two adult boys down there with me, and we're going to go to Disney World for a couple days. And my God, the ticket prices are just
yeah. I mean,
unreal.
God forbid you want to go to multiple different parks, get the pass to kind of hop around. Yeah, so it's I guess that's why they call it the happiest place on earth or whatever. I haven't been to Disney since I was like 8, so if we get down there, I'll be wearing my Mickey Mouse ears for sure.
All right, Riley. Hey, well, it's great to see you. We'll see you in Florida, I guess, in a few
Yeah,
weeks. But thanks
yeah,
again for joining us on the podcast. Great insight as always, and I love bringing you back after a 9-3 season. What a great time
right.
to be
Yeah,
an Illini
yeah.
fan. So,
Awesome. Always a pleasure, Doug. Thanks for having
all
me on.
right, thanks, Riley.
You bet.